Natalie, Danelishen, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm really happy that we were finally able to put this together. I've been wanting to have you on the show for a really long time.
I'm so sorry too because I promised to come on a few weeks ago and I got so sick. I had the flu, I had kidney issues, I was like dying, and I'm hearing that this is pretty much like the general theme going around this winter. So
Mm, got it. Well, no excuses. I accept no excuses. You bailed on me, and I'll never forgive you. You're
okay,
dead
I'm
to me.
sorry. I will send you some chocolates as
Oh,
a scent or something.
don't do that. I'm in the middle of carnivore January right now, so that is probably that's actually probably good revenge, honestly, because I would
Yeah, it would
just
be.
stare
Yeah,
at the bag of chocolates and be like, I can't eat this shit
like
till
you know.
February. Anyway, hey, really happy you're here. I obviously know who you are. I'm a libertarian dork, and had a ton of libertarians on the show. But for those of my audience who happen to be maybe in the fitness and health and nutrition community, or any of the other topics that my ADD brain is interested in, why don't you give the quick background? Tell everyone who you are and what you do.
Well, my name is Natalie Danelishen. I used to work for the Mises Institute. I currently work for the Free Cities Foundation. I also do a little bit of side work for the Tuttle Twins, and a lot of people know me through my X account, which kind of blew up. Yeah, that was crazy. I really don't even know how it happened, but like during COVID, I started pushing back on my X account, and I went from like 4,000 followers to now I have like 127,000, and that was just being, a smart mouth online. So I mean, taking my libertarian values and just going to politicians and saying you suck has gained me followers, um, and that's about it for me. I mean, I just keep trying to fight for liberty every day and try to find more freedom in this unfree world, and people are accepting it more openly than. I don't know if you were part of the 2008 Ron Paul people.
Oh, you 100%. Yeah.
Yeah,
I go
way
back
back as
way
well.
farther than that. I'm like the oldest school libertarian you can imagine. I've been with the whole thing for forever. Although I am an anarchist and I don't vote, I'm not a political action person. But I vibed with Ron Paul's '08 campaign and his previous campaigns. I think the man is like absolute goat.
His
And
previous campaign in 80, I think was it 89 or something?
'88, I think.
Yeah, see, I was only 2 at that time.
Well,
So
I'm old. I'm an old dude, man. Like I'm almost 50 for Christ's sake. Like
yeah, I'm
I've
38, so I just had a birthday. So yeah, it's just I'm part of the younger. I guess I'm part of the younger Ron Paul generation, which is weird because, like, I don't feel so young because I have an 18-year-old child already. So it's like I have an adult child, and I've been doing this for like 20 years, and it makes me feel ancient because doing anything in the libertarian movement is exhausting because you don't go it's like hitting your head against a wall repeatedly trying to get more freedom for people, and you're just like not getting where you want to go. And thank God for Elon Musk because we were all censored too, at least I was. Do you know, this is actually a funny story, but on X I was banned. It was like right after Elon bought X.
Mhm.
uh I was completely banned from Twitter. And then I think it was Colin Rugg. He was asking everybody, he was asking why are all these accounts banned? Because we all got an auto ban. Um, it was over a Zelensky picture we put up. And it was part of the old algorithm that Elon couldn't change as quickly, so we all got the auto ban. And it was crazy. So I actually unbanned my account personally, so that was cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did that happen? Because I've seen him comment on your stuff, and I'm like, number one, that's got to be really freaking weird having Elon Musk commenting on your posts. But how did he personally get involved with unblocking you? That's an interesting story.
He tagged Elon in that post that Colin Rugg had, mentioned, and there was a list of names. I was one of the names, and he an hour later we were all on band. So it was fantastic. He did do it, and he made sure it happened. And when Elon says something, he's gonna do it, and it's fantastic. And yes, it is strange having the richest guy in the world comment on my stuff. It's been fascinating. I've gotten some retweets from Malay too, and he's just fantastic. Yeah, it's been crazy. I'm really like I'm a mom from Ohio. This is the crazy part. Like I'm a mom from Ohio, and the richest guy in the world's looking at my tweets. So it's strange to me. Like I'm nobody, and it's happening.
Yeah, I can't imagine that. That's really wild. But what I will say, I do agree with you in sentiment, right? Like I'm happy that he bought X, and I'm happy that there's been a knock-on effect. You're seeing Zuckerberg start back. Like the whole market is shifting, right? Competition, it's a beautiful thing. I love the fact that we've got a freer speech platform. But man, not happy with some of the changes, right? The algorithm is shifting. Like I'm a tech nerd and I watch, the X engineering accounts and I see the things that are changing. And now we're like, hey, we're promoting positivity. We're not going to be saying negative things. And I'm very much in line with that vibe, right? So I'm a positive person. I want to change the world for the best. That's the entire reason I started this podcast. Improve myself, help to improve the world through conversations like this about important topics. But sometimes if you're going to change something that really sucks, you have to be somewhat negative about it. You actually have to we have to criticize things, right? Like, and there's a way to do it. And I never do this. Like, I'm not a person that just completely, this is stupid, you're a piece of shit, and you got like, I don't engage in any of that stuff. But I've noticed something really weird in that when I criticize Donald Trump fairly for things, and I'm objective, I'm policy based. I'm like, these are the issues I have a problem with. I've noticed weird stuff happening. It's happened in like the last 2 weeks. I'll be on a thread and I'll post something and I'll say something, true, like the first Donald Trump term added more to the United States debt than from George Washington all the way until Barack Obama took office. A lot of people don't know that. And I'll go back and somebody will respond and I'll try to respond and I'll post it and it freezes and it hangs and it won't let me post. And I'll try it again and it won't post. And I'll try it a third time and it won't post. I'll go on a different thread that is completely unrelated. Might be some nutrition topic. Post every time. Go back to the thread. It won't post. There's something screwy going on here, and so I'm not trying to throw too much shade on Elon, but there's a bunch of other examples too where this is not exactly the free speech platform. Is it better than the old one? Hell yes. We're not under the Jack Dorsey, and we're not under the old regime. But man, like I'm a little bit nervous anytime, and sorry, Elon, but like anytime anyone with corporate interest starts intersecting with state power, my feelers are immediately up. Like I told you, like I'm an old dude. I've been around a long time. I've seen this game before, and I know that Elon has got very intense ambitions to go to Mars and make us a multiplanetary species. And I think that he's singularly focused. And being in tech, I think I've got some insight into the way the autistic mind works. And I think he's on record. He's not hiding from the fact that he's got Asperger's. This dude is an autist. And that's not a bad thing. I think some of the best people in the world, it's like legit weaponized autism. It is a superpower and it can get shit done, particularly with engineering and tech.
Yeah.
It's a superpower, right? But I do worry.
People within my own family. So it's like I've watched my own daughter. She likes to build robots, but she struggles in other areas. So yeah, she's definitely a tech nerd.
Yeah, and I think we should push people in that direction. But my point is, you have somebody who has been as vastly successful as Elon has been with this singular focus of making us a multiplanetary species. And I really worry that he's using things like Starlink and all these endeavors he's working on. He could try to do some unsavory things, and it might even be well intentioned, right? Because I keep going back to Lord of the Rings, right? That's one of my favorite analogies. J.R.R. Tolkien, he wrote the Lord of the Rings using the Ring of Power as a metaphor for government. That's why in the series, a human could never carry it, an elf can't carry it. It's like this other creature called the Hobbit was the only thing that could carry this ring because the power is too great. And
because the hobbits were pure,
Yeah.
They didn't crave the power. They didn't want it. They just wanted to, have their home and food. So that was basically it. I've read Lord of the Rings. I'm a huge, Tolkien nerd. And as a Tolkien nerd, I've even seen Elon even post some Tolkien stuff. He gets it. And I don't see him as some kind of like, oh, he has all this power and he's going to use it again. He's not I forget how you pronounce the name, Sharuman or whatever. He's not
Sauron.
Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry. I just woke up from a nap, so I'm going to use that as my excuse. I'm like, they'll have to say. But yeah, he's not him. So I really think that he's more of like the Hobbit, and he wants to make sure, his he wants to make sure humanity lives on. And at the rate we're going, humanity's not going to live on. It's going to be destroyed. And
For sure, and I'm not debating that. I'm not saying that that's not true, and I'm not saying that he doesn't have good intentions. I think it's just a very difficult thing for anybody to wield, that having that much power. And I'm not saying he has direct power, but you know the way it is when you have the ear of the president and you're at Mar-a-Lago and you're in that circle and you can sway things the way you want it to go. Bad things tend to happen, and this is just me.
I would rather have Elon in that circle than other politicians in that circle. Do you understand what I mean? Because there's a lot of career politicians right now surrounding Donald Trump or trying to get in with Donald Trump, and I don't trust those people at all. I'd rather have some guy on the outside who's seeing all the shit from the outside in the inside, if that makes sense.
It does, and it's obviously a sliding scale here. There's a spectrum, and I completely get that take, and I don't want. Well, I mean, like I said, I'm an anarchist, man. Like, I don't want anybody to have that power. So it's like, for me, it's Sophie's choice. Like, what are you going to pick?
I mean, as libertarians or anarchists, we always, want the least amount of government or no government at all, and that's fantastic. The problem is, it's not realistic. We're never going to have that. No, don't give me that, because the people want to be ruled. The general population. We're always going to have a general population who want to be ruled. And they want handouts, and then they want gimmies, and that's the society that we have. There's no getting around that.
No, so we agree.
Somebody like Elon Musk and Donald Trump, and somebody like Kamala Harris who wants to control every aspect of my life. Now, I do have problems with Trump and his last administration. Now, I will say that. He started the COVID stuff. He listened to Fauci. You should be in jail. He did not pardon Snowden. He didn't pardon Assange. That made me upset.
Well, he wanted to murder them. Hold on. It's worse than that. He's on record saying he wanted to kill them.
Well, hopefully he's changed his mind at this point, because they need a pardon, and Ross should be free, in my opinion. I don't know.
Amen to that. Now,
that's something that I haven't even heard too much about, but, I'm really hoping and praying Ross is free next week.
We agree on that.
Then okay, well, I'm definitely giving Trump a solid A+ there.
So here's let's because we're pre-inauguration. What do you think the chances are that he actually follows through on that promise? Because I've been watching a lot of the LP drama, even though I don't vote. I'm not an LP member. Like, I've been interested in.
I'm not an LP member, but I'm like in the LP. Like all the time. I'm like, why? And then people are like, oh, you're in the Libertarian Party. I'm like, no, I'm not in the Libertarian Party. Then they're like, you're in the Republican Party. I'm like, no, I just, I vote based on my conscience. Does my gut feel like this person's going to screw us over? That's what I do. I'm sorry. I lean like libertarian right. That's like my lane.
Yeah, totally. So I've been watching Angela McArdle and all the drama around them not supporting their own candidate and backing Trump. And it's been interesting, and a lot of people got really upset about it. And I'm kind of like, hey, LP, you guys are perennial losers every year. You're not doing anything anyway.
It's not every year. I mean,
yeah,
it's not Angela either. I'm not bashing Angela here, because I love Angela. I know her personally, and I know that she fights, gets up every day, and keeps going until she's exhausted. I know that. But, I mean, the LP, they're always fighting so much, they don't get shit done. They just don't.
Yeah, so my point is
and put your head down and get people in office, even if it's like, it probably, 100% won't be a president, but you can work on the lower, state, local. That's where you need to be getting LP people. Not so much worrying about who is president. It's not going to make a difference, because you guys aren't up there. And if they start getting lower local people into office, then that would build the momentum to somebody higher up in office becoming an LP president. But I think they're thinking short term, not long term.
Yeah, I agree. But my point was, I think that it didn't matter anyway at the national level, LP national. I agree. I think state is a completely different thing, particularly in New Hampshire where they're doing the concentration strategy with the Free State Project. That's really cool. That's a separate thing. But with the LP national, if all Angela does through her strategy here is get Ross freed, I'm like, that's
If
that is
that's your strategy, then that is fantastic.
that is more than the LP has done ever combined, right?
I
Like, I mean,
know,
let's be
I
so
know.
real about this. And so like I'm fine with all that stuff. My
Yeah,
question to you though is like, what do you think the chances are if you had to put odds on it? Like, what percentage chance do you think that Trump actually frees Ross?
I'm putting it at 100%.
Oh, wow.
I am, and if it's not done in like 2 weeks, I'm gonna start asking a lot of questions on my timeline. And you know, my timeline it has some heavy hitters following, so if it doesn't happen, I'm gonna start asking and inquiring because I really want it to happen.
We need to have torches and pitchforks. Like
Yeah,
I
I would go full torch and pitchfork if it doesn't happen. You know, because he stood in front of everybody at the LP and made a promise. I think not once but twice.
day
He was going to
one.
free Ross. Free Ross.
He
Day
said
one.
day one. And
Yeah,
I'm gonna tell you something. Day one, this shit doesn't happen. I'm starting to light the torches and pitchforks. I mean, like it is gonna be. I will be leading that charge because I gave, I I put down my skepticism because I've seen this movie before. It's like, do you know Charlie Brown? Are you young enough, or sorry, old enough to?
wow, old enough. Wow,
Yeah,
pulling out the Charlie Brown reference. You
with
mean the football?
the football. Like I've seen this shit so many
Yeah.
times, and so I was naturally hyper skeptical. I don't think he's going to do it. He's got no reason to do it. So I put it down and I said, okay, cool. I'm hoping, and I'm going to put all my belief that this is going to happen. But I tell you something, like that shit ends day one. Like there's no 2 weeks for me. This is day one, like you said, or I'm rioting. Like that's
Yeah. It was that for me. You know, the only reason why I, you know, went with Trump was that what Angela did, one, getting that promise, and the other one was just Elon backing him, you know, and him getting, you know, I don't want to say the word, but you know, and he just stood up and that's what we need. I think that's what we need is, you know, another fighter in America. And we can't have 4 more years of like a Biden or Kamala. So yeah, I went with Trump. And
yeah.
I'm really proud of that. I,
I'm mixed on that, and so there's two things here. So I had Maj Touré on a week and a half ago or so, and I think he shares some of the
glad
similar.
to start. Yeah.
I love Maj; he's such a good dude. We both I think share a similar concern in that uh, the LP or not the LP, the libertarians that sort of are. I would say surround Trump. That's a little bit strong word. There are some libertarians in his peripheral orbit to some degree. Like I don't know where Ron Paul is going to fit in this whole Doge thing, but there's some at least liberty-minded people. I hesitate to call them libertarians.
Working with Thomas Massey,
Mhm.
and I know Vivek is working with Ron Paul a little bit, and I know that Elon Musk has Ron Paul and Thomas Massey like in his orbit because he's replied and stuff.
Yep.
So you know, I don't know. This is the first time in a long time. Like after Trump won, I'm gonna be honest with you. I slept for like 12 hours.
Why is that?
Because I just felt at peace. I was like, thank God, I don't have 4 more years of Kamala or Joe Biden or anybody. You know, it's just I felt like okay, things are gonna start changing. So
Yeah,
that's my honest opinion on it, and I,
and cool. I'm glad that you do. And I don't want to be the wet blanket on everyone's party, but here's my concern. Number one, to circle back, like I'm a little bit concerned with these libertarians that are in his orbit. That when things go south, which pretty likely to do, they're going to get blamed for it, and libertarianism is going to get a black eye and get tarnished out of this whole thing. Set that aside. That like that may or may not happen. Who the hell knows? But I completely lost my train of thought. Never mind. I had something.
a lot. I
I
mean,
had something really important. Oh no, it's Trump.
he's talking to me.
It was
You
a
know,
Trump thing. It was a Trump thing. I was talking to Maj about this. I had to go connect my ADD brain. So the concern is like with Kamala, if she had been reelected. I mean, I admit she's the worst candidate ever. She was absolutely horrible. But what I've noticed, like I said, being an old dude, watching a lot of patterns, that Republicans only act and pretend to be marginally conservative when a Democrat president is in office, right? So what I typically see is when you have a Republican president and a Republican Congress, that is the most liberal leftist shit you've ever seen in your life, and it is out of control. The spending is out of control. The wars are out of control. It is just absolutely Looney Tunes. And so when there's a Democrat president in office, I see a different side. And I know it's pro wrestling, and I know they roll out the tough talk and we're conservative and all this bullshit. But at least out of like reflexively being opposed to Democrats, they at least hold a line somewhere. You know, you see Speaker Johnson, who is now MAGA apparently somehow, and these crazy lefty people. And when they all end up in power and they all are swimming one direction, just the size and scope and authoritarianism of government just seems to grow when that happens. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm high in the night, but that's just a concern that I have. And Maj shared that as well.
I see what you're saying, but at the same time, I mean, look at Milei. I mean, he's been in office a year under libertarian ideas.
Love that dude.
Yeah, he's a sweetheart. And look at him. He's able to bring down inflation and the debt, and he's doing good. And these are all under libertarian ideas. And nobody's throwing the libertarian ideas under the bus. As a matter of fact, the only people throwing Milei under the bus are other libertarians. So that's where we're at. I mean, and that's probably what we're going to have to face in the next few years, other libertarians throwing libertarians under the bus. And
Fair.
That's what's going to happen. So yeah. And
Fair point. I want to interject though real quick because I agree with you. But Javier Milei is actually a libertarian, and he understands economics really, really well. The guy's really smart. And in Argentina, the executive has like infinitely more power to afuera all this shit out than in the United States. And so my issue is that Donald Trump is not a libertarian. He doesn't like freedom at all. He hates it, really. He's an authoritarian leftist. If you are measuring him objectively on policy, he's a huge government, big spending debt sort of dude that really kind of hates guns. And so I'm like, this ain't Javier Milei, you know? And so I'm trying to be...
I think the fact that he has Trump in his orbit, or not Trump, but Elon in his orbit, I mean, that dude, he loves freedom. He does.
Agreed. And so here's what I see coming. And everyone can check me. I'm going on record. It's going to be on the internet forever. Here's my prediction. I think that Doge is going to do its thing, and they're going to work really hard. And Elon is going to do exactly what he did at Twitter. He's going to bring the best and the brightest minds together. They're going to identify all of the areas where we can cut the shit out of government, and it's going to cause a rift. I think that is going to sort of facilitate a divorce from Trump. I think he's going to get ejected completely. I think Massey's going to get ejected. I think Ron Paul is going to get told to get the fuck out of here. And we're going to go back to, a repeat of term one. And so I hope to God I'm wrong. I really do. I want...
Wrong too. And for some odd reason, I think you are, because...
please tell me why I'm wrong.
Why you're wrong. Because Trump has now lived through what the Dems are capable of. This is something...
The lawfare stuff?
Yeah, nobody's factoring in that. I mean, nobody's factoring in, like, they literally just tried to, arrest him. Like, even...
Shoot him twice?
Ago. I mean, shot at him twice. And then, look at the Cybertruck. They just... All these insane things have happened to Trump. And he's still there, still going. But I think now he knows just how insane they are. Like before he used to, I don't want to say, coddle the left, but, he entertained them. And now I don't think he's going to entertain them anymore. I really don't. And I really hope I'm right. I mean, I saw him talking to Barack Obama and they looked cozy. But, I mean, at the same time, though, I think he knows that, they're come after him again. And he's just not going to play their game anymore. That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah, I hope so too. And maybe you're right. Like I said, I'm just some dummy on the internet, but I've seen a lot, and I'm pretty good at pattern recognition. And so I suspect this is going to be the case. And I also really fear that, I mean, you're right. Like they came after him with everything. Like, and the dude was, and that was badass when he stood up and he like, fight. That was fucking one of the coolest things I've ever seen. Like, all credit to him for that. But I also know he's pretty narcissistic. And I think that he will respond to this by in turn going after. Like it's like, okay, fuck you. You're gonna do this lawfare shit on me. I'm gonna turn, and once I have control of that apparatus, that ring of power, I'm gonna point it right at my enemies, and I'm gonna come after you, and we're gonna escalate the situation. I think this is gonna turn into an endless game of one-upmanship. And I don't know if there's a good end to that. But God, I hope I'm wrong, because I don't want to. I don't like walking around telling everybody like things are going to go badly. But it's almost like if you're talking to somebody on the street and they're saying, yeah, the federal debt's really not a problem. Like, we can just monetize it. We can print more money. Everything's gonna be fine. And you're the person going like, hey, no, this is actually a real problem. Let me talk to you about the Federal Reserve.
In my head every week. I mean, if you follow me, you know, I mean, I really want to abolish the Fed. And you know, I found creative ways to get there. I use my Cleveland shots, but
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just, I've been screaming at the top of my lungs for, I don't know, 20 years now. We need to abolish the Federal Reserve, and we need to stop spending, and yeah.
And
And thank God Elon came along and amplified that message. He really did. You know, he's just lets everybody know we need to stop spending, and because before it felt like I was talking to a brick wall. Now, you know, I have somebody like, you know, Elon Musk saying it, you know, and before it was just like people like me and econ professors that, you know, on the Austrian side beforehand. Yeah, there was like nobody. So
yeah, I agree, and I've been like really happy to see that. I'm very happy to see the world's richest man with all the influence and all the eyeballs on his Twitter account posting
abolish the Fed.
stuff that I was posting, 18 years ago, like stuff that you would only see with the weirdo libertarian crowd that had read, F.A. Hayek and Ludwig von Mises and knew about the business cycle and the theory of credit and money, and it's like all these dorks.
Friedman. And I'll admit, Friedman's not my favorite. I'm a Mises girl, but Rothbard and stuff. So I lean more that way. But Thomas Sowell, he's reposting him too, and those are like some of my favorite people. So it's like, wow, this is really cool. And I don't know how this happened, but it did. So
Cool. Well, hey, I want to ask some background questions, 'cause I'm always interested when I talk to people that are liberty minded. Like what got you interested in these ideas? Why are they important to you? And ultimately, like, where do you land on the libertarian status spectrum? Because there's a spectrum, right? And I know this is what people always like.
autism spectrum.
Well, there's a little bit of that too. We could probably overlay that as a different dimension.
Probably, yeah.
We'll have like the new political compass. Where do you have the autism spectrum and the statist libertarian spectrum? That's the new quadrant. Print it. Yeah, I want to know where people land, because everybody is on that sort of timeline where you're more statist or less statist or more towards like whatever. And I'm interested because that's what most people seem to fight about. But I kind of think that it's the most interesting part.
It was very interesting for me. I started with Ron Paul. That's usually how we all start.
Boy, that's a gateway drug, isn't it?
Yeah, Ron Paul was my gateway drug. And then, I think I was about 21 years old when I started working at the Mises Institute. And I was just a groundskeeper there. I was like nobody, but, I was allowed access to the library. And so I was in the library a lot. And then, a few years go by and I just keep reading. And I left the Mises Institute in 2010. So 2008 to 2010, I worked there. And then I left. And then, I don't know, it was 2014. I for like 3 years, I started making, libertarian memes. I was one of like the OG libertarian meme.
Yeah.
And if you've ever seen like a quote meme with a picture of like Rothbard or Hayek or something with a quote from them, that might have been mine, because I've made thousands. Not many people know this about me, but I've made thousands of memes myself. They were really horrible in the beginning, but they got a lot better. Like now I'm really good at it. But yeah, so, and then Jeff Dice saw that I was making all these liberty memes and he liked them, and he hired me again at the Mises Institute. So I was hired not once but twice at the Mises Institute. So from 2014 to I think it was 2023 when Jeff Dice left, I worked at the Mises Institute. I was let go after Jeff Dice resigned, and a bunch of his contractors were. Yeah, so I went over to the Free Cities Foundation after that because I was really fascinated about how they're applying libertarian principles to real life. and I loved it. And here we are trying to build these free jurisdictions within existing nation states. That's what the Free Cities Foundation does. We try to support projects like that. We have one in Honduras. We have one in Prospera, Morzan, Prospera. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that have just brought me on my libertarian journey, and I appreciate it. But yeah, it was definitely Ron Paul who was my gateway drug, and it started very young. um, and yeah, I really had no time in my life to even think of like being a statist or anything in particular. I will say that I was a little bit more anarchist when I was younger, but as I've grown, I've kind of become more classical libertarian type Mises view, like we're always going to have some need of the state, but um yeah, definitely a lot less. I would appreciate a lot less government.
That's funny. The older I get, the more anarchist I become, if that's even
I would
possible.
probably switch back because I'm only 38 right now. So
You need to take your entire arc, your hero's journey, and
I
get and
know
get there. So
it will go like in a full circle and then just swing back again.
got it. So were you initially attracted to the economic arguments or the sound money arguments, or was it the ethical arguments and the non-aggression principle? Like, what was the thing that got you, or what drives you to be like,
Money, believe it or not, one of the first books I read was The New Deal in Old Rome, actually by Haskell.
mhm,
And it was all about, how Rome really fell because of the gold standard and stuff. And
yes,
it was a very fascinating book to me, and I've always been a history person. I've always loved learning about history. I don't if you Google me, the Mises Institute might still have my articles up, but you know, I talk I have a few articles up about like World War One and World War Two history and stuff like that. And that's just where my mind goes. It's very actually, if you hear my mind for more than 10 minutes, you're probably go insane because I definitely have that female mind, like where I go from like, oh my God, this was a war, and oh, how does sound money attached to this war, and wow, we really need to abolish central banks because they start wars. It's like boom, boom, boom like that. And usually I'm hungry somewhere in between, but I mean that's like the average like female. She's always hungry, but yeah, so yeah, it's just really strange how it all connected, and um I don't know. I've always loved to read. I always had a passion for reading. I don't know if you knew this about me, but I was homeschooled.
I
Um
did not know that.
yeah, I was homeschooled for a good part of my childhood, and I actually graduated high school at 16. I got my GED and I started college right away. So, which is pretty much the same thing my homeschooled son did. He graduated at 16 and started college right away. My middle daughter, she's gonna go one more year, so she's going a little bit later. And my 6-year-old just started school. So I have a while to go for her, but she's already like a wizard. She's
She's got at least 5 more years before she graduates high school and moves on, right?
Yeah, probably. I mean, she shocked me the other day, and this is the thing with homeschoolers, but we were finally starting to like read full sentences, right? Because that's about, the age. We get into that, full sentences. No, she read like a whole freaking paragraph book the other day with like full paragraphs, and it was just insane. So I'm like, oh, I got a wizard on my hands because she's gonna be like, my son's the reader, my daughter, she's mechanical. She is probably gonna be like a reader mechanical, like a mix between her siblings because she likes to build and she loves to read and she does sums in her head. It's so crazy. But
Oh, get that
and
kid
this is
programming. Get that kid a computer and have her start coding. My lord.
yeah. Well, the middle one likes to code and she likes to do robotics. So that's the one child I have who's coding. But yeah, I don't know about this one. The little one, she's just amazing me.
Oh, you screwed up. Think about this. Your homeschool kids are going to be a bunch of weirdos, and they can't just sit
Well,
in a
that's
class.
fine with anybody. I
Yeah,
know. They're just
and
gonna be home.
you're robbing them of the opportunity to sit in a government indoctrination center and wait for the slowest kid in the class to learn how to read one sentence. How
I know.
dare you?
I know. I know. It's shameful. The
Oh my
worst thing
gosh.
ever. Now, I highly recommend homeschooling because, when I was homeschooled, and people don't understand this, when I was homeschooled, there were like nothing for us. There were no programs. We couldn't do anything. You know, and it was just so boring. Like I had nothing to do, so I went to the library and I just sat at the library all day reading books. And the librarians knew me by name. I mean, they knew who I was every time I would come in, and I would read whole sections and then get bored because I had no more books to read. And I literally started. Have you ever seen Matilda?
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I am like the baby Matilda because it was like I would read a section and then move on, and I would get bored because I ran out of books. But because it was a really small public library in Cleveland, Ohio, it wasn't like some big fancy library. So yeah, that's what I did. And when I started homeschooling my kids, I thought, okay, there might not be a lot of options, so I'm going to get them into like a lot of programs. Well, my son, he did Civil Air Patrol, he did Boy Scouts, he did wrestling with actually the public school. Not many people, homeschoolers, know this, or I don't know how many people know this, but if you're homeschooled, you can actually join the sports teams in public schools.
Hmm.
So, because
Well, it makes sense since you're paying the damn property taxes to,
yeah,
that would be
I
paying
pay
for your kids'
taxes.
way anyway.
So yeah, that's one thing that you're allowed to do. And, there's tons of other activities like for nature and sports and stuff. My middle daughter, she loves horseback riding, so she did that with a group of kids. And my youngest, she just makes friends everywhere. So I'm like, there's like no problem. Kids show up at my door every summer with, wanting snacks and stuff. And this is what people don't understand. Homeschooling's not like what it was when we were kids. So they get plenty of socialization. As a matter of fact, probably too much in my opinion, because you know,
Yeah, because they live in the same world as all the other kids. I
yeah,
get it, and I think you're right, and I think that it would probably shock people the amount of resources that are available today versus somebody trying to homeschool even 10 years ago. I think
yeah.
it's just a lot more.
Because I was homeschooling 10 years ago too, because my son's 18. So I'm like, as a parent, 11, yeah, like 11, 12 years into homeschooling, because my son already graduated though. So, but yeah, it's been interesting. Like even like way back when I first started with my son, they didn't have as many resources as they do now. But he was on the wrestling team at public school, so which didn't turn out that great because now he has a hip issue, but hopefully we can get that fixed.
Hope that turns out all right. Hip issues, particularly at young ages, are not great because God, the older you get, the more you realize like all the little injuries you had is when you were coming up, they just sort of stick with you and don't really flare up in full until you get like 40 or 50. Then it's like, geez, man, really struggling. So, hey, I want to ask you a question. You said you worked on the Tuttle Twins book, so tell me about that a little bit.
I didn't work on them personally. I just helped them.
Mm.
And it's mostly I helped them too with some of the animated. Have you ever seen the Tuttle Twins TV series?
No, I've only seen the books.
Okay, well you got to check out the TV series. I can provide you a link if you want. But yeah, I was doing a little bit with that as well, and there are some exciting people coming up in new episodes, so it should be really really good. But yeah, it's just the Tuttle Twins I love, and they're like books that I've been using since my son was younger, for homeschooling, and they basically teach you the ideas of like Ludwig von Mises and Hayek and stuff, but already in like packaged children's versions, like adults can read it too and get something out of it. And I have. They're fantastic. And it's just something that I've been a fan of for a long time, and then Connor asked me to help out with some stuff, so I was like, oh, that's really cool. Okay. So,
Yeah,
yeah, Connor and Elijah, they do amazing work. Because Elijah's the illustrator, if I recall correctly, yeah.
yeah. I'm not sure about any of that. I just thought that was Tom Wood's project.
No, no,
It's not.
no, I don't think so.
Oh,
No,
he promotes it a lot
he
on his
promotes it a
podcast.
lot,
Ah,
but
okay.
it's not like his project. I think his is the homeschooling. Ron Paul homeschooling.
Oh, that's his.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's all the videos in it are him. So,
I've never seen
yeah,
it. Like
fantastic too. If you homeschool your children, check out the Tom Woods homeschooling.
I yeeted my kids into public school, so I'm a bad libertarian right off the
Wow,
jump.
you are a
So
horrible libertarian. Oh
I
my
really
God.
am.
So
Yeah,
you need to check out the Tom Woods homeschooling, and you need to check out the Tuttle Twins and have your kids watch the TV shows. I don't care how old they are. They have the Tuttle Twins also. People think they're just children's books, but they actually have teenager books as well, and they have history books also, which are fantastic. So yeah, I mean, I highly recommend the Tuttle Twins and the Ron Paul homeschooling curriculum. Both are really, really great. I don't know if it's free or not. I think Tom Wood sometimes like runs a promotional thing where either it's free or it's not. But he might have just made it free. I don't know.
Huh,
But
cool. Like, I wish I had kids in school, and I probably would have done something a little differently, particularly because, like my backstory is that we were in Utah until my oldest was like 12, and then we moved to Seattle, and like, oh my God, like being up there was pretty nightmarish, and it was a constant dialogue at home of like, wait a minute, they said what at school? Like, whoa, time out. Like, let's talk about this. And I thought at the time it was good to have them around that stuff and to talk about it, use it as like subject matter to talk about like, okay, well, actually, that's complete bullshit, and here's the actual thing. And we've had plenty of discussions like that. But I think some of that stuff does seep in, and I don't know how much of that is the TikTok generation, how much of that is public school, but I'm still battling some of that. My kids sometimes they say stuff, and I'm like, wait, what are you talking about?
well, I will say, no matter what, I do tell my kids, always think about this critically, and even if you side one way or the other, make sure that you understand both sides before you pick a side. Fully, not just, oh, so and so told me this, so it must be true. No.
Yeah, and I think there's a problem with that. Like lack of critical thinking, and I think that's the most important thing. The most important thing to teach people as a skill for life is how to think, not what to think, and that's something people really struggle with. I think human beings love to be on a team. They love to just sort of, somebody else has done the thinking. I've watched some TikTok video or a YouTube video, and that sounds pretty good to me. Then you sort of regurgitate it without actually going through the process of doing that critical thinking. And that's not just for kids; that's for humans in general. Um,
It's basically what I've raised, my children as, how to think, not what to think. So, and there are times I don't even agree with stuff my oldest says, because my oldest is 18, and they're at that age where they think they know everything, but life has
they do know everything. I
massive
remember being 18; I knew everything.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
God, I was an
even though
idiot.
I had my son at 19. So I was a teenage mom, and oh man, I remember getting so much shit for that. And then women on the internet will tell me it's not a flex that you had a teenage child. I'm like, it's a flex. I don't care what anybody says, because man, I pushed through and I kept my son. I wasn't one of these like, go abort a baby type women ever. So yeah, I pushed through a lot to just make sure he was raised right and good and humble and strong and all that. So
So,
yeah,
so yeah, good question here is like, what do you consider raising a kid right? Like, what did you do? Like, when you're intentionally parenting, what are you thinking about? What are you trying to instill?
I just try to instill that, you do the right thing. At, always try to do the right thing, or what you believe is the right thing. Like, there was like like every winter, I have him go check on our elderly neighbors, make sure their cars are shoveled out and stuff, and he does it, no problem. It's just stuff like that. And then it was interesting because one year, we got a really bad snowstorm in our area of Ohio. It was like well over 12 feet. Everybody was snowed in. People were trying to get out. They couldn't get out. So, I live in an apartment, so we normally don't have like people shoveling here or shovels. Somebody usually shovels for us, but the maintenance people couldn't get in to shovel that morning. So people were trying to get out. So we took our shovels and we went and started shoveling people out. And, I told Jacob, I have to go back in and take care of, well, my baby at the time was the youngest. And I said, you just keep shoveling. He did it out of the goodness of his heart. And next thing we knew was people were bringing Jacob like boxes of donuts as a thank you and giving him 20s and stuff. I'm like, see, you did the right thing and you didn't even ask for money and you got rewarded for it. And that's the type of thing. If you have a good heart with good intentions, you will get rewarded for it. And good things will happen, but if you do bad things with bad intentions, you're probably, get smited for it or whatever. So I didn't necessarily raise my children on religion per se. I'm a Christian myself. I let my children, my children were baptized, but I didn't so much let my children pick a religion, but I did expose them to multiple religions, not just
Hmm.
Christianity, but I like in our house we have Christianity. I have a Quran. I have multiple different things. I have so many Bibles. I think last count it was like 19 or something. But I think just teaching religion, not as a whole, is good. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does, and actually, I'm
Because
somebody
you're going
who
to interact with people in your life who could be a Muslim or who could be a Buddhist or, whatever, a Christian, a Baptist, and, all these different things. And you're going to have to be able to interact with them in life. Um,
yeah, I think
and
it helps relatability, right? Like if you encounter somebody who happens to be Muslim, like knowing a thing or two about what they believe, maybe
exactly.
it's important.
So that was another way I've raised my children somewhat differently than normal. But yeah, I was Episcopalian and I was taking my children to church for the longest time, but the church sadly went woke. It went severely woke.
Really,
And I don't know if you know anything about the Episcopalian culture, but they were
I don't.
having like you know gay pride flags hanging up and stuff, and yeah, so that's going a bit too far for me. For me, I like the history standpoint of the Bible, and if I'm gonna stand there for an hour, I don't want a woke lecture about how I'm going to hell because I don't accept people. I want to know what the Bible says. Give me the chapter on Luke or something and explain that chapter to me. That's what I want to learn when I go to church, and I just wasn't getting that. So yeah, I left the church. Um,
Got it. Yeah. So real quick, I try not to be too provocative, but what about the gay pride pregs hanging up in the church? Was the two you said was too far? What do you mean by that exactly?
Well, they never had them before, one.
Hmm.
And if you see how woke culture has taken over everything, even in public schools, which your kids might interfere with, I think it's more programming and conditioning than it is accepting any kind of life.
Got it. So it's not like I'm opposed to gay people in any way. It's
No,
just like
it's
it's.
definitely programming and
Mm,
indoctrination, in my opinion. And if you're getting it at school, you're getting it at church, and you're getting it at home, you're gonna get that for the rest of your life. And that's something I'm just trying to okay, here's this, like to give you an example. My kids wanted to go to this kitty cat convention, right? It was here in Cleveland, Ohio, just recently, and I said okay. I think I was in Prague at the time for work, so next thing I know, my daughter's texting me that there are furries at the kitty cat convention. And this is how I'm saying though, like that woke ideology is trying to invade. Like they wanted to go pet cats, like real cats, not like humans dressed as cats. And yeah, so that's that's what's getting exposed to my children, and I don't really appreciate that. It's like, how do I explain it? Like, okay, there's your ideology, but when it gets sexual, it should not be exposed to children until adulthood, in my opinion.
weird that that's a controversial
I
view,
know. I'm
and,
probably
and
going to go to hell and get smited for this or something, or some libertarian's going to want to cancel me after this, but I don't give a shit. You know,
no, no, no.
it's like it's like why are the trannies reading to children? Why can't they go to a nursing home and read to the elderly? It's because they want to read to the children and indoctrinate the children. Because when you're young, it's easy to be indoctrinated. So, there's all these types of things. But I think if it's anything sexual, it needs to stay away from children. So,
Yeah, yeah, and I talked to Helen Pluckrose earlier this year about that, and she's like one of the preeminent woke experts. If you don't know who she is, and this sort of originates in queer theory, and one of the tenets of queer theory is like you just continually blur boundaries, right? You constantly want to be breaking down these boundaries, breaking and everywhere at all times in every direction. So even talking about, things like what are they called, minor attracted person, pedophiles, right? Like
Yeah.
they're like, oh well, we can't have a line there. They continually fuzz these things away, and it acts kind of like as a social solvent. Everything that exists in Western society needs to be sort of dissolved. These boundaries need to be broken down. We need to sort of,
No,
in my view,
back on that, especially when it comes to my children, and I'm okay with that. I don't care who I piss off.
well,
I'm gonna sit there, protect my children, and keep them away from your insanity.
yeah,
Uh,
and a lot of people have had enough of it, right? So I think we've
yeah,
seen that pendulum, like they've used up any goodwill that is left, right? Like we are done with this bullshit, and I think a lot of parents are seeing this moment. And this might be one of the best things about the Trump election, right? It's kind of like a moratorium or a referendum on that stuff, where it's like,
no, yeah.
America, we're done with that shit. We tried it, and a lot of people, I think, really bit their tongues and they pussied
It's
out.
crazy. Actual gay people don't even side with some of these people. Like my friend Heidi on Twitter, on X, she's gay. She voted
Mhm.
for Trump, and her wife did. So it's like you have, like, they went so far that normal gay people are now getting like hated for being gay, and it's like, no, there are normal gay people who don't agree with this and hate it. I mean, look at Gays Against Groomers. Even
Yeah.
they're outraged about some of this stuff that's happened. So, which is a fantastic Twitter account, and I highly recommend following. But yeah, so I mean, I think America is just done. Me as a parent, I'm done. You know,
Yeah, and amen to that, and just good riddance. I'm really ready to turn the page on that stuff, because that was a dark period of time, and I'm really hoping we're seeing it. All these companies are shuttering their DEI programs. The pet, it's like the snapback has happened, and I think at least for now, we're going to see a different direction culturally.
it's like I don't give a shit about your pronouns. I never did. I mean,
No, and there's a lot of people that I think, looking back retrospectively, should be ashamed of themselves. There's a lot of people that sat by and they just put their head down. They didn't say anything because they were afraid to get.
for COVID who did the fucking same, and they
Mm.
should be ashamed, and they should put their head down, and they should shuffle away. I got death threats during COVID, and this was during the time when my Twitter account was growing because I was speaking back,
Yep.
and I had people telling me I should be killed for a meme that I posted or something like that. My best friend of like 25 years, she unfriended me over COVID because I was mocking the vaccine and I wouldn't take it. Uh, I,
Boy,
I
that didn't age well.
I put I don't know, I put a line in the sand and I said I'm not going past this. And I stood my ground, and I didn't get vaccinated. I stopped wearing masks. I did wear a mask a couple times, which I'm somewhat ashamed of. But one of the times was, if you're ready for this, my bank wouldn't let me come in and get my money out of my account, and I didn't have my bank card unless I put on a mask. So they were basically holding my money hostage during this time. So I put on the mask, went in, withdrew all my money, and closed my bank account because I wasn't gonna
Good
do
for
it.
you.
Yeah.
Good for
So
you.
I mean, I'm just saying that there were a lot of people though who just not only marched to the marching orders, but also went beyond that and became little dictators. I like to call them because they were like, "Oh, you're standing in my circle. Get away from my circle." Oh, you're following arrows on the floor like cattle. You look like a dick. I mean, that's just
Yeah, yeah.
that's just you look like an idiot, and I didn't care. I never followed the arrows. I remember I got yelled at so many times for not following the arrows, and I was just like, you think viruses can really go one way? I mean, how much
It's so.
fucking
Well, you know what? You know what I loved? I love this. Oh my God! You would see rows of ATMs that were like a foot apart, and there would be circles that were 6 feet apart in the lines, but you're standing next to somebody that was a foot or two away from you. And
yeah,
it's like, what kind of dumb shit is this? And also, anyone that knows anything about, this virus, it's like it's aerosolized. It's not droplet transmission. It hangs in the air. This is so dumb. And then you get yelled that you're being a science denier, you're being some backwoods inbred hillbilly or something. It's like, no, I actually know how to read scientific literature. I understand what's going on here. You guys are insane.
Yeah, I remember having, because I did fly to like some Macy's events during that time, and I remember having to like wear a mask to fly. That was stupid because then they were like, you can pull down your mask and eat a snack. So I would sit there and just nibble on a snack for like an hour and a half. And I would just be like, I'm a slow eater. I need to digest my food slowly. And I pretty much had the whole flight without a mask. So.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
there were ways you could bend the rules during that time, and no one cared. No one.
yeah, but this really reminds me of something you said earlier, which is kind of like people don't want liberty. And I agree with you. And I've said this multiple times on this show. This is my thesis. Tell me what you think. People in America, particularly, hate freedom because on the opposite side of that coin is responsibility.
Yeah.
And they don't want to take any responsibility. And I view the COVID period as a referendum on liberty, and America failed. They fucking, if there's a
Oh, they
grade,
failed big time. That's a big fat F. You know,
yep.
Trump got an F during that time. Oh, Fauci, he should be in jail. I think some of what happened with Trump was Fauci, to be honest with you.
I'm not so sure.
I don't know. He was taking his advice, I think. Because I remember when he got off a plane, he was in the hospital for COVID, and then he removed his mask, and then he started talking about natural immunity, and then that's when shit hit the fan with Trump. People started like pushing back against Trump. Do you remember that?
I do. And I don't like this general argument, right? Because I hear it all the time from the people that try to excuse Trump's bad behavior. And it's always like this weird thing where it's simultaneously, it's like Schrodinger's thing. It's where it's like simultaneously he's playing 5D chess and you just have to trust the plan because the dude's a genius, but he's also being hoodwinked by low level staffers and officials in administration all the time.
And there's proof of that. I actually just read a tweet not too long ago, about somebody in the DHS was, actively trying to go against Trump, and they would get together with other people. It was just a tweet that just came out, like just.
Yeah, no. I know that stuff happened, right? I get it, but here's the thing that I can't get away from, particularly with COVID, is that how the fuck did you and I and like everybody we talked to at the same time know exactly like a week and a half into the pandemic what was going on, and then he still hasn't figured it out.
A few people speaking out. Now, I actually have tweets from before the pandemic, like weeks before, saying this is bullshit. Oh, they're going to try to turn this into something. And I have the receipts from it. I still have my tweets up. But like by March, I was like, oh my God, they're really going full totalitarian now. Like I was saying it from the start. There were some libertarians who were pushing back at me, and I can call them out. One was Justin Amash. One was Julie Brown.
Is he really a libertarian? Oh, go ahead. I'm doing the meme. I'm doing the meme.
Okay, you're doing the meme. But no, I'm just saying, I mean, these were some of the people who I respected who were fighting with me about COVID. And I'm like, can't you guys see it for the bullshit that it is?
Yeah. And we all, not we all.
Everybody finally woke up when, everybody was like, oh, haha, yeah, it was not much and you all needed natural immunity anyway.
Yeah, that's a spectrum. But I'm saying, like, literally, like, most of the people that were in the liberty community that, at least that I interface with, saw this shit earlier. Like, oh my God, I know exactly what's happening. Like, this is complete bullshit. Trump never figured it out and still to this day says that Operation Warp.
I actually think that, like, libertarians dropped the ball on this one. I really do.
How so?
Because there were so many libertarians who pushed back against me.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't have that experience.
Maybe they were left libertarians.
Drop some names.
Well, yeah, like I was saying, like Julia Browski, Justin Amash. I mean, there were a few others. I have the receipts. The Cato people. Yeah, so okay, it was mostly libertarians.
Yeah, I say that none of those people sound like libertarians to me. But...
Actually, libertarians. Yeah, no, I mean, I had no issue when I went to like libertarian conferences or anything with anybody, but I mean, it just seemed really weird, and it just seemed like even if like libertarians weren't pushing back enough, in my opinion, this could have been a shining moment for like the LP, and it wasn't.
It really wasn't.
If I recall correctly, there were some LP tweets too about COVID, because this was before Angela's time. Do you remember that?
I do, and I also remember Chase's tweets during that time, which came back to haunt him a little bit. It's like, and to be fair to Chase, I have to be fair to Chase. Like, he didn't say the federal government should be locking things down. Like, he wasn't like initiate force against people. He just had shit tweets about COVID the entire time that were just off the rails. So
Does he have good tweets? That's my question.
I don't know. I mean, he's good on some theory things, but I just had an episode released today with the Black Mutualist, and we went down the rabbit hole because he loves that guy and is like behind Chase. And I'm just like, I had to line out like all these issues that are problematic. And I'm like, he might like agree with libertarian philosophy the most of any candidate that ran, but he was just a bad candidate in like 17 different dimensions. There's a reason why people just completely ran away from him, including his old party chair.
Yeah. I don't blame any of them. I think I've actually met Chase in person, and in person Chase is pretty, decent. He's not like somebody you would just like run away from or loathe or avoid. He seems okay, but when everybody was running, there was Michael Rechtenwald, and I liked him a lot because obviously he was a friend I've known for several years.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, there was no candidate in the LP that really sang to me.
Yeah, I think there was a weird year because I think everybody expected Dave Smith to run, and then he kind of like talked like he was going to, and then at the last minute it's like, yeah, I'm not going to do it, and that just really left a vacuum. I think there wasn't enough time to sort of fill.
Well, Dave, I really appreciate all he's done. I'm not gonna be mad
For sure.
at
I'm
all.
not mad at that. Wasn't a shot against Dave. I understand why
Yeah.
somebody would choose
I'm
to
just
not
putting
run
that
for
out there. I'm
president.
not mad at Dave for not running. I mean, do I think Dave could be amazing? Yeah. Would I vote for Dave? Oh, hell yeah. Trump's only in for 4 more years, and people need to understand this, right and left and libertarian. So really, 2028 is up for grabs for any party. Really, I mean, and that's what they need to understand, and start planning now. Start getting their message out now. I mean, the left is going to play the long game, which is what they always do. They have gone into colleges and elementary schools, and the ideology is thriving throughout that. And yeah, and social media. I mean, somehow Meta is turning around. X definitely turned around. So you have that ideology, and that's what the right and libertarians are going to have to push back against. And they have to start doing it like now.
Yeah, so get your shit together, libertarians.
Yeah, get your shit together, because 2028 is coming up pretty fast. I mean, look how far, it feels like the Biden administration was forever. But, maybe it's because I'm getting old and time's speeding up or something, because it went by pretty fast. So, and this will go by pretty fast.
Yep. Well, hey, I know we got a hard stop and I'm already over. Thank you so much for your time. This is a good place to end it. Hell yeah, let's focus on 2028. Maybe we can improve things. I'm not going to be black pilled. I'm super white pilled, but boy,
we have Elon in our camp, so that's we have Trump for 4 years. Hopefully, we can get some stuff in order. But so it's just. God, I hope and pray Thomas Massey runs at some point.
Well, wouldn't that be? I would actually maybe get off the fence and vote in that case. I love Massey.
I would 100% be at the ballot box voting, but he'll probably just he every time I've asked him, he's just reacted to my comments.
He's too good of a person to run for president. I just don't think that's.
The country doesn't deserve Thomas Massey. I think.
Thank you. we can agree on that. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks for stopping by. It's been really great. I could have chatted for 3 more hours, but we got to run. So tell everyone where to find you. I mean, I know everyone probably already does, but
you can find me at ChessChick on 01 on Twitter, and you can also find me over at the Free Cities Foundation. We have a lot of events there every year. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Chat later.
Thanks for having me. Bye.
Bye.